Welcome to Gardening with Granny. This is mid-September and lots have happened since the end of August when I last did a video about Mackinac Island. When we left Mackinac Island, I was struggling with extreme back pain. My husband is a chiropractor and he worked on me every single day. For I want to say 2 weeks it's been. My back is perfectly fine. However, last week I came down with a cold. So the beginning of September has been a bit of a challenge for me. And I have not been out in my garden as much as I've wanted to. But things are winding down. I've got a lot of things that have a lot of produce that I've been putting up, freeze drying, canning. Not as much canning because of the cold. It was easier to have my husband help me with the freeze drying, and drying was celery leaves and herbs and wasn't that difficult to do. So how about you? Has the beginning of September kind of caught you in some kind of a pickle? Well, it's been an interesting beginning of the September time. This has been, today is actually such a lovely day. It is cool. We had some dreadful heat, and I'm sure across the country I shouldn't complain because California, you have my regard. Dealing with 100-degree weather is just like impossible for me. Give me winter anytime, not that kind of heat. I actually kind of wilt after 80, so, and you would think that is pleasant. So, but you can see, I'm going to turn the camera around and you'll see the wonderful green stalks. So those tomatoes are still pumping. I've got some lovely basil, purple. I've got over here, this is a lovely holy basil, and actually it's grown for the flowers, and it is very medicinal, beautiful. I've actually got a little strawberry in there. So these green stalks have been such a blessing. I come out most every day and harvest a little something to have at breakfast. And I started some lettuce back in July, and we've been eating off of that. The peppers have been fabulous. The parsley has been unbelievable. Just a great year. Kale, chard, more peppers. Just so lovely. And the smallest cabbage I think I've ever had. Curly parsley, more peppers, regular basil, more lettuce. The weirdest cauliflower I think I've ever had. More of those little tomatoes. It's getting tired. We're actually getting some of the paste tomatoes, the San Marzanos, a little marigold there. And I think it's time to get rid of some of this and let it rest for a little bit, and then maybe put in some things that I can cover for the winter. I did almost into winter where we did beautiful lettuce and kale. They were wonderful. I harvested right up to Thanksgiving last year, so we'll see. I had to cover it, but it was beautiful. Well, let's move into another area. My fern garden and the Brunera Coleus still doing good. Now we were gifted with some plants, and this coral bell or heuchera is Dolce Wildberry. So we got several of those, I think 4. We each got a bag with plants, and then some friends of ours gifted us with theirs. So we planted those a couple of days ago, and I think they will look beautiful in this area. We also were gifted with some little quick fire hydrangea. Now these are just babies. I moved them from the small pot they were in into these pots because they were struggling. So I'm very excited about that. And I don't know if you remember this. These were the transplants that I took cuttings from during the winter and rooted them, and they are doing magnificent. I will certainly do that again next year because they just propagated so beautifully. You can look over here. This is the mother plant where they came from. She's doing magnificent. Also, my dahlias are in bloom. So exciting. They are just gorgeous. Absolutely loving them. Moonflowers, they don't know that it's the middle of the day. So they don't bloom just at noon or during the moon. And these were the Proven Winners plants that I got from the Eastern Market when I went with my granddaughters, and they are doing just gorgeous. My asters are starting to bloom. Yep. This garden is weedy, but still looking lovely. So I want to show you some of the other produce that I've been collecting. Obviously, these little tomatoes have been fabulous. I have made salsa, I've frozen them, I've eaten them fresh, I've had them, cooked them, I've dehydrated them. Lots of different things. I've powdered them, made a wonderful seasoning sauce with them. Also, it's been a bumper year for celery. I've so enjoyed the celery harvest. Mostly what I do with the leaves is I wash them and dehydrate them, and they are so wonderful because then after you dehydrate them, you can put them in a blender and you can make little leaves out of them, dried leaves, and add them to different dishes and that. But I like to powder it. I put in some pretty good sized salt, and I make celery salt, and it's just a lovely seasoning. I harvested my first melon. I want to say before we went to the Proven Winners, Mackinac Island, and unfortunately it wasn't right. So I harvested 2 today, and I'm very happy to say it's ripe. I don't know about this one, but the one I opened was a yummy, and I particularly like my melons a little on the crisper side. not mushy. And unfortunately, it was mushy, but it was sweet and delicious. So I'm not complaining. I have the hardest time picking melons and making sure that they're going to be ripe. And so I'm hoping this one will be ripe as well. I have been picking these tomatoes. I started in July and they are ripening in my porch area. And what I do is I put them in a dish and then I cover it with a towel, which kind of helps to keep away the bugs. And they've been ripening beautifully. So I got a wonderful harvest. This is one of the darker, it's supposed to be, I think, a black color. They end up being darker, but not black completely. But it's been a lovely tomato, and I certainly will grow it next year. And I mentioned I have peppers. I've frozen, I think I have pounds of chopped peppers ready to go. We can make all kinds of pepper dishes this winter, and I'm so excited that everything is going so well. I have, oh, right over here. I have picked so many of these squash, and it was so much more prolific than my zucchini. And the only problem I saw with that was that it's spread. It's very viney and huge leaves, just like zucchini, but it's spread quite a distance. But I think I've picked maybe 10. Some were actually bigger than this. And I cut out the seeds and froze it. I have 6 bags with 2 cups each in the freezer. I dehydrated 3 quarts of this, which I can take and put like in lasagna. Nobody knows it's there. It's just a wonderful way to add vegetables. I also have powdered it and added as an extender to some of the meals that I've been preparing. So, what have you been doing in the garden? Have you been making use? Did you do a 30-day challenge and every day put away something? Well, I've loved this year so far. It's been a wonderful, wonderful year. Some things were not as prolific, but that's why we have farmers markets. I bought a bunch of tomatoes. We canned up a bunch of tomatoes. I have yet to process my Concord grapes, but before we went away to Mackinac, I did pick them, and hopefully in the near future, my granddaughters and I will be making Concord jelly. So I'd love to hear from you how you're doing, what your garden is looking like, and what you've made from your produce in the garden. And until next time, this is Dr. Mary and Gardening with Granny.